as we did last week. All right, in your notes, I would break out your notes. This is creating a new session. Okay, so you can just write in headline, creating a new session. I'm going to go through a couple items on here that you know you're going to want to understand. But on the step-by-step, I'm going to show you the step-by-step first, and then I'm going to talk about elements that go with the screen that you're about to see. Okay, so creating a new session. New sessions are actually quite easy to do, and if you noticed, when you opened the software, the first thing you saw was this window. And there's two ways to get to it after we go through our procedure. So in your step one, I would put command plus the letter N, right? Remember that? We talked about it last week. Command and N, when you're in different types of software, essentially it is a hotkey for creating new. Okay, so it does the same thing in Photoshop as it does in the Finder window, which we're talking about, as it does in Pro Tools, creating new. The other way to do it, and so you could put or just go to File, New. Okay, pretty simple, right? And for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with how you write commands, easy, simple way. I don't know if you guys have done this with menu paths. Obviously, we have some computer science majors, so, you know. It's very simple. File, your little arrow, new. Make sense? That means it's inside that same file menu system. Okay? So when you write that down, make sure it looks like that. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to see this window. And the problem with this window, I talked about it before. The problem with this window is it's been designed to be beginner friendly. Downside to it is that if you want to be more than a beginner, you have to understand how to navigate it as an advanced user. And what they build in these systems is they build a lot of like in the projects page, or I'm sorry, it's actually in here from create from template. This whole listing here is all for beginners who don't know where to start and want some sort of template for their session. Well, the reality of it is that your session will almost always either inevitably be different every time, or it will always be exactly the same. And there's really rare instances where you'll have like these random configurations that always work for everything. So, great example, I'm going to record a vocal, and that's all I'm going to do. If that's all I ever do in my session, then I can actually save that as a template, and I can open it as a template every time because it's literally the same thing. But in most cases, in the studio, you're always going to be working with a new act who has a new lineup, who has a new configuration, right? And because of that, it makes using templates more of a thing that you're not really interested in. You can build your own templates. That's something we will show you, okay? Building your own templates for your own template use. But using the pre-formatted templates in here, not the greatest idea, because it'll just throw up a bunch of information that'll waste DSP or computer processing power that you don't need to waste, right? Does that make sense? So what you're going to do as your step two is, step two, we need to actually say or identify which method we're going to use, and it's kind of a new window pane, so we have to identify which method we're going to use to locate the files that are going to be saved. They put in two methods, okay? Step two for you guys is select prompt for location. You see it right there at the bottom, the little radial selector. Prompt for location. So step two, select prompt for location. You could use the other version where it says it's going to ask you for a location now, but it's easier in the flow to prompt for location as you go, and I'll show you why. Prompt for location. Okay. Step three, name your session. Always name your session. Today's session will be called Class 2. You don't have to write that down, but you'll type it in so when it comes time. So step three, name your session. You can name it whatever you'd like. There are some restrictions, okay? Some restrictions to the naming properties don't allow, as they used to, because they actually used to, certain characters in the name. Dashes is one of them. You can use periods. You can use underscores. But we used to use slashes a lot, and those used to be very beneficial. But we're not allowed to use that because of the way the directories are used now. So you're just going to put in a typical name. Step four, okay? Choose file type, and you could write this these will be consecutive steps. Step 4, choose file type. And we're going to come back and put what that is. Actually, I'll give it to you now. File type, in your selection, see it where it says file type? Please select WAV. .wav, right here. File type. Step 5, select sample rate. We're going to talk about that in depth, but today we're going to do the drill first so you get used to it. We'll go back and discuss what it is. Okay, so select sample rate, step 5. Select sample rate. Your sample rate at this stage that I'm having you select, so you can just put in parentheses, is 44.1 kilohertz, KHZ. You can see it on the screen over there in the sample rate box. You guys with me still? Everybody's caught up? Step 6, select bit depth. Your bit depth right now that I would prefer you to select is what everybody's using in the most cutting edge versions of the DAW, which is 32-bit float, and that's what they call it here, but it's 32-bit floating point, but it's, you can just write in parentheses 32-bit float. That's what I'd like you to select at the moment. And then, what are we, step 7? Select I/O settings. Now, get this, the I/O settings are what you guys just built, okay? That I/O setup that you deleted and you refreshed by hitting default, that was something you had just built. So you're gonna wanna choose last used, okay? Last used, so you can put it in parentheses, last used is preferable after you set it up. Obviously the problem with last used, if someone screwed with it and you didn't reset it, last used would not be a great thing if it was somebody else's I/O setup. Does that make sense? Even if I were to take, remember we're on the FCA 1616, if I just pulled the plug on my interface, I wouldn't want to use the last used because it changes my I/O setup, right? I'd have to go back and build a map for whatever new interface I'm going to attach to. Okay, at this point in time, I would also like you to select, step 8, select interleaved. Notice it's not checked by default. We'll also talk about this as well, but we're going to select interleaved. And then step 8, easiest one of all, hit create. Now we're not done yet. So step 8, hit create. Really simple. But step 9 is where it gets a little tricky. Okay? This will be essentially almost the final step. Step 9, choose the location where you'd like to save the session, okay? So step 9, choose a location where you'd like to save the session. Choose a location where you'd like to save a session. Now for all of you, when you choose your location, you should see, and I think all of them look like they're visible. So you're gonna choose a location where you'd like to save the session. If you look at your computer, in parentheses, for you, that location is going to start off being on the hard drive that says data. You can see there's there's 2 drives that should be listed on your home screen there. On the desktop, you should see one that says data. That's essentially the drive that's assigned, and for those of you in computers could probably talk more about this. But essentially we try to reserve a drive just for the applications and the iOS to operate, and we reserve a drive for all of the project data to be saved. Does that make sense? Keeping them separate allows for the project to move more fluidly. And so when we do that, we want to make sure that you, as the user, and this is the most interesting part that I run into all the time, you are in command of this software, right? You're in command of the project. Biggest, most important responsibility of being in command of the project is knowing where you're saving and knowing how much space is allocated for that location. Now, in this instance, your data drives should all have quite a bit of space. But once you're working on a drive for 6 months, a year, 2 years, then you're starting to look at, do I need a new drive? Do I need to allocate more space? Things like that, depending on how large the drive is. So you're going to choose, first of all, in 9, you're going to choose where. The first step to that is it's going to be on the data drive. For you as an individual student, on the data drive, step 10 will be to choose new folder. This is an added step when you're working at home. The new folder may be something different than what it's going to be for you. But for step 10, you're going to select new folder. See it down here in the bottom? Now, one thing you may see, just as a tip, sometimes this Finder window comes up looking like this. And all you have to do is hit that arrow to expand it, and then you'll get the option for new folder. Now, I already made a new folder, and what I did is I did sessions on my, if you follow the systems, I'm on the data drive under my name, under session, actually this class name, under sessions, under in-class sessions, and that's where I'm going to drop my listing here for, did I say class 3? It's class 2, isn't it? I was thinking it's 3. Class 2. Class 2. So I'll name it, I'll select where it's going to go. For you, when you make a new folder, your new folder will be titled your name. That make sense? So you'll be on the data drive, the folder will be called your name. Then you can go ahead and hit save at step 11. Once you hit save at step 11, the session will open.